Today is the day, well, maybe for us, but definitely for you guys, that we are gonna hear this motor back in the Porsche fire up with the new big boy cams and obviously looking absolutely amazing. So my Porsche buddy Kevin, he's here today helping again. Massive thank you for all of your assistance and
absolutely, bro.
Helping me along this prehistoric beast of a journey that has been very, very exciting. So thanks to eBay Motors, we've been able to completely refresh this engine with tons of new OEM parts, aftermarket parts, not only reseal it, but make it better than it would have been stock. And today's the day we get to put it in the car and see what that entails. We spent the morning finishing up a lot of little like odds and ends on it, even smoke tested it out of the car just to see if there's any vacuum leaks to make sure we're not dealing with like trying to get in back here once it's in the car, because you'll see it's extremely tight, and she was so happy about that. So the biggest thing, we gotta get this thing on a pallet. That way we can start dealing with the clutch set up on the back, made the transmission to it, and then we can get it in the car.
All right, when Adam gets back from his little meeting, if any of you guys installed one of these pressure plates before, these release bearings specifically, the proper way obviously is putting it onto a press and getting this all centered, but as always, the other way is to stand on this. And you can see here, when I push pressure on this, you see how it's kind of going up and down. So this little circlip rests on the inside there. So another way is just to stand on it and then get the circlip to center. And it's kind of like bouncing on a skateboard almost. So it's always funny to see somebody do it for the first time. So
we're gonna make him do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make him do it.
Kevin's really excited about this, and I have no idea why. Well, what is going on with the pressure plate?
All right, so I just really want to see you balancing and try to get this circlip in. So it's always fun to see everyone's first time doing it. My first time, I busted my ass. So
what do you do?
So basically, if you watch me push down on this, you see how...
Oh, so you stand on it, you just push the clip in.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's it. But then you're like doing this third world squat on top of a pressure plate.
Third world squat.
Hey.
Oh, just so you know as well, this is literally just all OE factory RS clutch.
Yep. So there's the groove right there that you're going to be trying
Easy. That is a really light clutch. All right, so balance on it and then push this in with my fingers.
Yep. You're going to see...
Is this how Porsche says to do it?
No, Porsche says to use the press.
Oh.
But all the OGs know this is the way to do it.
Hold on. I just want to make sure I don't like mess it up.
Try to keep the center.
Oh yeah, easy. Am I cheating by using the table?
No. If this doesn't work, then we'll do it the proper way. But this is just funny to watch.
I think I'm in.
Are you sure?
No, I'm definitely out. I think I was in. I don't know if the technique is to walk, you know, went everywhere except this one edge.
No, we're out.
I think that the ring needs to go down a little bit. I think that's what's fighting us. You know, we have a press too. But this is YouTube.
And you're in.
And we're in, baby. Mike said he had 4 minutes. We did it in 3.
With Kevin's help.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't bust my ass.
There you go.
Sean's looking at us like idiots. What's cool is it leaked oil before, and it probably won't do that now.
Hopefully.
Putting the last of the remaining bolts to connect all the tin together. Kevin's gonna start working on the rear main. I tried with it in the engine stand before, but it was not cooperating, so now should be a bit easier. That's crazy. See, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if we did it that way, how were we gonna pull the screws out?
Yeah, so.
That's pretty
There
cool.
you go. That's how Porsche wants you to do it.
Really?
Yeah. Because the back, like the inside of this is metal. So they're like, run a self-tapper in it.
Clutch is going on. And we're in.
I like this tape.
First time. About to get the engine in, and it is important time. We gotta figure out what we're doing for engine mounts. Hopped on eBay Motors, searched 964 engine mounts, and this is what we wound up with. May look like we got a little bit too many because this is a Renline tunable engine mount kit, the first tunable engine mount kit I've ever had. This one actually comes with 3 different strength bushings, street, sport, and race, so you can figure out how stiff you want it. Now, I'm not super familiar with these engines or their harmonics, so I don't know how much it's gonna vibrate or make noise, so I think I'm gonna actually start with the street mounts. If I get a lot of movement, then we can bump up to the stiffer ones, but I'm definitely more for having a smooth ride. I love how this thing was stock. But now they're going manual and we're beefing up some of the other stuff. I didn't want to just throw in some old stock weather bushings into it. I slept on it, spent the night thinking about stuff I might have forgotten, read some articles online. I think we're actually in really good shape. A couple of things I found underneath the car that I was able to kind of button up. I'm gonna zip tie some of those things out of the way, drop the engine mounts in, and then just slowly take my time, get the motor in, and hopefully we can hear it purr soon. You know what's interesting? I didn't realize the purpose of the tin at first. So it basically separates all the hot air from the cold air. Kevin was explaining to me, the engine fan pushes all the hot air down, and then all the cool air technically should stay up in the engine bay. That way it's not like mixing with it itself. So yeah, I never really understood what it was for. I thought it was more to keep like fluids from leaking, but it's actually more of like a heat barrier. All right, now how does this go in? We've done pretty good considering how blown apart this car has gotten, but as with any long-term project, little things go missing, like this throttle clip. Gonna hop on eBay Motors, order another one. So no throttle cable usage when I first started up, but so far, if that's the only thing, we're looking pretty good. Hardest thing about getting the engine back in, actually it was really easy to line everything up. There's this split seal that goes around the tin, and it was just challenging to kind of like maneuver it and finagle it. But she's in. First look at what she looks like. It's interesting because you see a lot of stuff that I feel like you didn't see when it was on the ground. The AC compressor's front and center, so I'm really glad we did that. Yeah. But what I'm gonna do now, I've got everything pretty snug. I'm gonna lift it up in the air and I'm just gonna focus on oil. Oil and air are like the 2 most important things of this engine, and fuel. Yeah. But I'm gonna work in order of importance, starting with oil to make sure all my oil lines are dialed. Then the last thing's fluids, and then room. This beautifully restored line, courtesy of Cerakote and some vapor honing, a little bit of clear coat. Very expensive line, it's like $700, but we restore, we make pretty, she good to go. Nope, maybe? It's already cute because this was like so foreign to me when we were first taking it apart that like I didn't even know how and where to unhook the oil things. And now I feel like if I have to take one of these apart, the first thing I do is like I know where everything is. Like it kind of makes me want to get more. It's like when you build your first S chassis, then it like makes the world of S chassis not scary. Yeah. I don't think S chassis were scary to anyone other than me. I was a noob. There's still oil in this thing after all that we put it through. Gotta put a new crush washer on it. I'm surprised it still had fluid in it. That is the blackest trans fluid I've ever seen. Yeah. This thing's definitely got some miles on it, huh? Get an arm workout, I'll tell you that much. All right, we got everything done underneath the car. Now we're going into the car. It's very overwhelming looking at it, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'll probably start on the right and work my way slowly over to the left, and then it'll be harder to forget things, I think. And then I'll like check over 3 times, make sure I put oil in it, then I'll start it. How did this get to this? Maybe that goes like that? How's this big guy? I'm really happy I went through the full process of taking this thing apart. Because before, like I would look at this and I wouldn't have no idea how anything gets serviced or how to access anything. And now, like even looking in a compact corner like this with a power steering pump, fuel rail and everything, I can kind of like see in my mind how I would need to address something if there's a leak or if something needed to come apart. So I'm glad that I've been able to kind of see through the whole process. We hit our first issue. Basically, the connector that we changed because we put a new crank sensor on the car didn't match up to the factory harness. Sometimes they update connectors and like maybe there's like an adapter kit or something for it, but we can still use my old sensor and it's still good. So, oh yeah, that's super easy to get to. Just this guy right here. It's a 5 mil Allen. I get to pull that out and then I can stick the new one, or I should say the old one, back in there, and then everything will bolt up. I know, I must have done it too tight. I need your help. I've done almost everything at this point, but I'm giving up now. I swear it wasn't that tight when I put it on.
It's pretty tight.
I can do the trick where you put a screwdriver through it.
Oh, no, I mean, no.
I did.
That's the Porsche I was talking about.
I mean, I did that last
You use
time.
a belt and yeah.
That's pretty neat.
You never used one of these in
No,
there?
I didn't know we had that.
Yeah, there's a few hanging around.
I'll put a rag in there. This is why it smoked so much the first time. You know, this filter's pretty much brand new, so I probably could leave it, but bone dry.
Nice.
In this car, we're using Porsche Classic Oil with their oil filter as well. Doesn't matter what you drive, it doesn't matter what kind of oil or oil filter is your preference. You can find it over on eBay Motors. Get your maintenance done and keep your car happy. My exhaust is still over getting dry ice clean, so I actually borrowed these from a buddy of mine. We're just gonna use these for startup. I don't wanna start it completely open engine, so it'll be effectively open headers just to make sure everything's okay. I'm gonna not leave, I also wasn't planning to put the exhaust on right away anyway, just so that way if we need to service something, access to see if there's any leaks, it'll make it that much easier. So, I guess this one would be this side. Pretty exciting, we're moving to the front of the car now. I get to plug the battery in, but before we do that, there's actually a relay and a couple wires I need to address before I can start this thing. Basically to make it not freak out that there's not a manual, or there's not an auto trans in it anymore. Assuming this is a fuse box. We need to remove relay number 61. All right, bridge terminals 3 and 5. I'm gonna remake this nice for later. I'm just being impatient right now. I'm gonna leave the Tiptronic ECU in. I could probably take it out, but I'll deal with that later. First thing we wanna do is prime and make sure that we don't have any leaks. Don't worry about the inside. This is the YouTube first start. We made a mess here, pouring the oil in, so that sucks. Hoping most of it will just burn off. Tried to clean it really good. All right, so I'm gonna crank it. It's not gonna start because the distributor's not hooked up. At least I don't think it will. Maybe it could. I'll unplug these 2 things off the distributor too. There's this guy. I don't know what that does, but I'm gonna leave that unplugged. Hopefully it'll suck down the rest of the oil, maybe build a little bit of oil pressure. If there's any issues, it's always better to have on a crank than it is to have on a first start. It might take starting it to suck it down.
Yeah.
That's good though, it cranks
Yeah.
healthily. You ready, baby? We're about to start.
Are you serious?
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
All right, so the last thing I'm doing, I cranked it a couple times without the distributor plugged in just to make sure everything was all Gucci. And we're Gucci. The only thing I have a small concern about, I can't remember, is it normal for these things not to suck all the oil in until it's running? Like there's just some oil sitting up in the top of the funnel.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta make the engine's your vacuum pump basically. So once you get it really going, it's gonna start sucking in more.
Yeah, I mean, I put a whole 10 liters in it, so it's got at least enough.
have Mike be eyes and make sure that nothing actually leaks out, obviously.
Well, Mike's camera, so he can be camera and eyes. It might not idle great, so obviously it's got bigger cams right now, and I don't have an O2 hooked up because it's still in my exhaust, which is at Scott's. That was an oversight on my end. Pretty much everything's hooked up minus the AC compressor, so I'm gonna make sure the AC is not on.
Cranks over fast.
That was a weird noise.
Is it in neutral?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like it wanted to start, right?
Like fire and flames out of that sound.
Yeah, it's making a weird sound.
Is the popping coming from the exhaust?
Yeah, it like makes it 2 pops and then does a little weird, I don't know, I don't want to keep trying to start it and then have an issue. It just sounds weird. You hear that noise? It sounds like a dinosaur.
Go ahead, keep going.
Keep going? I mean, what are the chances that it's out of fuel? Not strong, right? I didn't drain the tank. Oh no, it's got a quarter tank in it. The only thing I think has something to do with the O2 sensor. I doubt that would give it a fault, right?
I doubt that shouldn't cause a no start though.
Yeah, it's mad.
Is this easy to turn?
Oh, the distributor, you think it's stabbed wrong?
That's the only thing maybe I was thinking of. So it could, one of two things, either A, distributor's just stabbed out wrong, we have the wiring incorrect on the distributor, or it's something to do with the flywheel sensor, because it's definitely cranking really, really good.
I'm on the plane back from Austin, coming home from the rally stuff. Kevin sends me a video. This thing's running now?
This thing's running now, dude.
All right, what was it? What'd you
freaking
find?
mean. So my dumbass, excuse my language, I stabbed the distributor 180 out. So it was just one of those things where you're working so hard, working so fast, and just a slight oversight. So figured out, luckily it was just something simple. We were assuming it was something a little more complicated since this is going from an automatic to a manual. Luckily it wasn't something super complicated. It was just a stupid mess up on my part. So yeah, that was quick, and now it's running, so.
How'd you figure it out? You said you pulled out the scope?
So we almost pulled out the scope. It was kind of a process of elimination. So basically I checked out some of the quick stuff where it was like, okay, is it getting spark? Is it getting fuel? All that stuff. And it was getting all that. So I was like, you know, in the off chance maybe I did stab it wrong. So let's just pull everything off and just re-stab it to make sure it's good. And I'm like, it's not firing like this. Let's do a 180. Turned it 180, stabbed it back in on a whim, cranked it up, fired right up. So
sick.
That's how it was. Didn't have to whip out the scope. I brought everything with me, all the scope stuff. So that was kind of like last ditch stuff that where I really didn't want to whip it out, but brought it just in case. So
let's hear it.
let's go.
That is loud.
That's super loud.
Obviously you still don't have a muffler on it. Now's the time to check for leaks. Make sure everything's good. Oil's not squirting anywhere. Having a true dual exhaust and not having a muffler on it right now, it's hard to hear if it's got a low pedal at idle. But it definitely has got something a little spicy about it. Bone dry, boys, no leaks. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! The whole purpose of this thing was to fix leaks, and sure enough, it's a completely redone engine, completely refreshed, all the hardware is zinc coated. But the most important thing, no more leaks. Now that we got it running, there's just a few little more parts and pieces to get this thing absolutely complete on the ground and driving, which should be the next video that you guys see. I still got a little bit of my work cut out for me on the interior, getting all of that back in place. But I want to give a massive shout out yet again to Derek and Kevin for helping me out with this thing. I'm still really proud. I was able to get my hands real dirty with this build, and it was probably, I'd say next to doing a similar thing with like an SR and an S chassis, it's probably the most in depth I've gone in a long time with a car build. So it's been a lot of fun kind of learning the platform, learning the process, and as always, I want to give a massive shout out to eBay Motors for sponsoring this build and helping make this project possible. I was a little stressed about the deadline of bringing this car out to Amelia Island, but now knowing that it's running, got a full week to put the final parts on, do fit and finish, make sure everything's legit, safe, ready to rip. We're gonna have a great weekend cruising around with this thing with my 3 pedals and my 6-speed. I'll see you guys soon.
Hold on.
just want to make sure I don't like mess it up. Did I fall out of the groove? No, definitely not. I think I was in. You know we have a press too. But this is YouTube. And we're in, baby. Mike said he had 4 minutes. We did it in 3.